Frogwatch is warning of a plague of cane toads in the Northern Territory. They say early rains will promote breeding, and that's bad news for the Territory's struggling reptile populations.
Only a relatively small number of species are at major risk, but for those species the impact is truly catastrophic.
Loved by some, loathed by others. Reptiles like this olive python once slithered across the top end in abundant numbers. But like so many species across the Northern Territory, they're in trouble.
We don't see death otter, nothing. We don't see king brown and some small snakes around, nothing, all gone.
In a lot of Aboriginal economic zones now, neither the goannas nor the turtles are available anymore, and they were KFC, you know, they were available in any amount at any time in the past, and suddenly they've disappeared.
Goannas, known in these parts as galawan, are an important part of cultural life. They're a favourite food for many Aboriginal groups across the country.
When I was young, I could remember you could see where galawan had been digging holes and a lot of evidence. Can you see that these days, or it's all gone?
It's all gone now.
Oh, goodness. And what about other reptiles like the king brown snake? Are you seeing them around at all?
No, it's all gone now. Everything's gone.
A whole lot, yeah.
Here in Jabiru, it's the right season for hunting goanna, but this year there are none to be found.
We really like galawan. It tastes really good. We want goanna to come back so we can show our kids, grandchildren. So we need goanna to come back.
Numbers going down.
Ian Morris is hearing the same story from Indigenous people across the top end. Stocks of traditional bush tucker are drying up.
Trying to get galawan back, and we saw them with the kids.
Since when cane toad came and all disappeared. In 2001 we had little bitty goanna, but now it's all gone.
Cane toads were introduced into Australia in 1935 to control a pest beetle devastating local sugarcane crops.
See, the parotid gland is not really well developed, but it's there.
When threatened, the toads excrete poison from glands along their backs, making them a deadly meal for native wildlife.
No thorns on the thumb yet. The males have got much bigger thumbs than the females.
Their march from Queensland to the Northern Territory and now Western Australia has been marked by dramatic falls in mammal, bird and reptile populations.
Cane toad toxins, it's a whole new chemistry for our native animals. We don't have toads in Australia naturally. They're in other countries. And so the wildlife in those other countries can compete with the toad's toxins. They know how to swallow them. They've got chemistry in their stomachs to help digest the toad toxins. Here in Australia, we don't have that. So a lot of our frog-eating animals, when they meet their first toad, they die.
Toadbusters have been fighting the spread of cane toads since they crossed the Territory border 5 years ago. It was an initiative that had volunteers not just catching toads, but collecting data on frog populations.
Now this one is a girl. We can channel that enthusiasm now into a broader perspective and look at our reptiles as well. We need to find a solution, an intelligent solution to these toads if we possibly can. There'll be one.
It's the public's fascination with lizards like these that's prompted the formation of a new group called Reptile Watch. The volunteer organisation wants Territorians to help them find out how many reptiles are left in the wild.
Yeah, well, we hope to make it like Facebook for reptiles. So the first thing we need to do is gather information. When you apply for funding, often to funding agencies to learn these things, they'll say, well, there's no evidence to say that those animals are in trouble, or, you know, we've got to actually gather this data ourselves.
I think one of the critical things in any conservation initiative is to get the community involved. Basically, unless the Australian community wants to keep animals like king browns and yellow-spotted monitors and so on in the landscape, it's just not going to happen.
Sydney-based Professor Rick Shine has researched the impact of the toad invasion on local wildlife populations in Darwin's rural area.
25 years ago, I started a project on the ecology of reptiles up at Fog Dam, and when the cane toads arrived 5 years ago, it was pretty obvious we had a fantastic opportunity to find out What effects cane toads really have on reptiles?
The Territory's carnivorous reptiles like the death adder, blue-tongue lizards and goannas are the worst affected. It's estimated 90% of those populations were wiped out at the study sites.
If we start to remove these apex predators from a system, it has all kinds of flow-on effects. But the bottom line is that we have lost a huge proportion of those large predatory reptiles of a small number of species, and it really is a devastating effect of the invasion of cane toads.
We've got another specimen for you to look at.
All right.
It's not just cane toads killing reptiles. This water python has been hit repeatedly with a shovel after being confused with a deadly king brown.
Apparently it was in somebody's chook house, and it was initially struck with a shovel. Then the lady decided it wasn't so bad and maybe she should try and save it.
It's this human impact that could be the nail in the coffin for many reptile species.
Well, cane toads haven't caused the extinction of any native species in Australia. The danger is that there are so many other things going on that perhaps the toad is that extra challenge that's just too much for local populations.
Whether those populations can hang on or not, I don't know, but those kind of disturbances to our natural ecosystems are what sort of scare me, really, and it would be a real shame in a place like this if we lost those things.